Josh and Dave over at Ars Gladii. We just recently got a pair of Purpleheart Armory's Pentii synthetic wasters. So these are a little bit different than what you would normally be able to get off the shelf, or at least for right now. We had talked with Christian to specifically go through and find a synthetic that was a little bit more like a traditional sword and more weighted and balanced in terms of what you would actually see from more of a steel type sword. Something that we were specifically looking for our intro students. Something as a low-cost trainer that we could buy a lot of for the club. Something that didn't have a lot of maintenance requirements and that played nicely, at least with the material that we teach in our intro class. And these things actually have been fabulous. We actually really enjoy what Christian was able to get for us here. One of the big changes here is the fact that he's using these smaller disc pommels as opposed to the larger, more classic, at least for the 14th, 15th century, scent stopper style pommels. That really has changed the balance significantly on these swords. We've played a little bit with some of the older Pentii IIIs, some of the ones that are more feather style as opposed to traditional longsword style. And those, while they're nice and they, do kind of work for sparring without a whole lot of extra gear like you would need for steel, they just didn't feel right in terms of getting the actual kind of feel and way a sword is supposed to move. So we wanted to have these things, and these things actually really work out well. So, Dave, you want to hand me one of these? We have two models here. One is the shorter that Dave's currently holding. This is the longer one. Most of these are built on Christian's folded longsword profile, and then again with the smaller pommel. So if you look at the published stats, I don't have one here to show you, of the regular feathers, some of them have points of balance that come almost exactly to the cross. These things come out, this is the longer one here, if I can get it to go. There we go. So we're looking at somewhere between about 4.5 and 5 inches out in front of that cross. So it really has a balance point that's very, very similar to where a steel sword would have it. The weight comes in at about 2.5, 2 3/4 pounds. So the weight is actually pretty much in stock with what you would get with a steel sword. Now you just have to deal with the fact that it's got the wider edges that you can't really get away from on anything except for a good steel blade. These things play very nicely together. They don't have any of the bounce that we feel with some of the woods, or even our older Swordcraft aluminums that we still have hanging around, which are decent trainers, but they do have a bit of a bounce to them still. They do have the slickness that synthetics do have, which kind of can distort technique a little bit in terms of some of the more advanced material that you're going to get into with our Legionnaire classes. But for our intro material, the subtleties that are going to be apparent between steel and synthetic really don't matter for that use. So these things are really nice for that. They have bend to it, which obviously a wooden waster isn't going to have that. So they're all in all have been a very nice and very well-made product for us.
Yeah. So I think my only other comment I'd add to Josh's is actually that while the weight they're still fairly light in terms of a trainer, actually having that point of balance move out so far really makes them more blade heavy than the original Pentiis were. And so that's actually what really helps them also sort of behave more like the kind of behavior we wanted in the bind, where you had a sort of a sense of the weight of the blades coming in contact without necessarily going up to the much heavier or more dense material that Christian sent out to us too, which was nice, but these ones were really the ones that we preferred and our students preferred.
Yep, very much so. So after this, we're going to have a couple clips of some plays being performed with this, and then a little light open sparring also, so you can kind of get an idea of how the blades act in the bind and kind of how they come together. So stay tuned for that, and thank you again, Christian.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. the ones with the cut.
You guys were doing so well.
Figure that time. The fact that we could come to a bind there that didn't like blow out. Oh, I missed! Let's play pretty.